We'll now recognize another member
Chairman?
seeks recognition. Mr. Boyer, you have an amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I have two amendments, and I will do them en bloc if you're willing to accept both of these amendments. So if the best way to handle this...
En banc does not mean in blind.
Well,
I'm not prepared to accept anything until I've seen it. Do you want to offer it or not?
These are two very good amendments, and it's one in which I've worked not only with your staff but also with Mr. Boucher. One is the amendment number 20, and the other is an amendment with Greg Walden with regard to mature forests. We've had good discussions, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the mature forest issues, and some of your members have also worked with our members on an amendment. And I'll do them both en bloc if you're willing to take them both en bloc.
Well, I have to look at them first, and I'm not prepared to say that. Do you want to offer them en bloc and we'll discuss it, or do you want to offer them separately?
Well, I guess
one of those amendments.
Let me do it separately then. That'll give you a chance to look at them, and then you'll have the opportunity.
I'll tell you what. Do it en bloc
individually.
Let's do it let's do them together.
We'll do them together.
And
what are you going to do? Just do it already.
Did you want to do this together to save time?
Let's go ahead and pass out both amendments, Mr. Chairman, and I'll proceed to discuss if you like.
Gentleman has two amendments we will consider en bloc without objection. And I'd like,
and then if you
without objection, we'll consider them both read.
Mr. Chairman, reserve a point of order.
And a point of order is reserved by the gentleman from Michigan. And I would like to recognize Mr. Boyer for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then, if you disagree with one of them, we can bifurcate them no differently what we had done before with Mr. Barton. The issue with regard to the interconnection and net metering is an issue that Mr. Boucher and I have worked on together since 2005. And right now, I'd like for the members to know over the last 2 years, please, may I? Thank you. We have, over the last 2 years, we have a lot of renewable energy projects ongoing within the VA and DOD. So with regard to the VA, we have, with regard to solar alone, there are 54, no, strike that. With regard to renewable energy projects, there are 54, 38 of which are solar, 16 of which are geothermal and wind turbine. We have 14 that are actually going to be funded in this year's appropriation. There are, of the 22 that I've been able to get in the work with the Secretary.
Gentlemen, yield to me.
Yes, sir.
You have two amendments, one of which we support, so you may not want to talk at length about it. That's the net metering amendment for federal agencies. We support that amendment. The other one that you're offering with Mr. Walden is problematic, so perhaps you can spend some time talking about that one.
Very well.
See if you can convince us.
Very well. I want to thank Mr. Boucher for his work, and I'll work with you on further issues that you and I have. With regard to mature forest stands, I brought up the discussion with my colleagues, the drive that I took from Denver up to Breckenridge and then to Vail. And what I've learned is that you have over 2 million acres of the lodgepole pines forest in Colorado. The pine beetle has killed this forest, and over 500,000 acres of the contiguous areas in southern Wyoming, and it is headed to aspen. And I believe that this is a good amendment. It's very narrowly tailored. And I want to yield to the gentleman, Mr. Walden, who's known as Mr. Woody.
Great. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. It's been a wonderful time.
That's not what I meant.
We're going to talk about biomass here. And I just want to tell you that I just got some numbers. In Colorado, for example, there are nearly 7 million acres of lands that are considered mature stand forests, much like what you saw in that photo on the in the Colorado mountains.
It's behind you.
That would be off limits because of the term in this bill that lacks any scientific basis. And I say that, I want to enter into the record 2 letters, one from the Society of American Foresters, where they say the exclusion of the mature stands on federal lands is extremely problematic. They go on to say in the end, excluding these lands has no basis in science. For those who have cared about science, here are the scientists. No basis in science. I ask unanimous consent that be entered into the record. The second is from the National Association of Forest Service Retirees. And it says that essential treatments to maintain the health and resilience of forest stands are not limited to just removal of small, non-commercial trees. Throughout stand development, trees become crowded, disease, or insect infected. They go on. These are the professionals in the forestry business, and we should listen to them. Now, let me just point out that there's nothing in this bill that will prevent the treatment of these trees from being removed. Let me make that clear. There's nothing in here that prevents this forest from being treated. Here's what the language mature stand says, however, is that all the material they take out of there will not count if it's burned in a new, efficient, new technology, new science-based energy generating facility that's because it came off a mature stand. So you know what they're going to do with it, most likely? They're going to pile it up on the ground, wait till winter, and burn it. They call that a slash burn. They're going to burn it. They're going to just pile it up out here, wait till winter, and they're going to burn it, most likely. That's what they do when they do thinning. What we're saying is, why don't you take that material, chop it up, make it into woody biomass, bricks like this, pucks like I had the other day, replace coal, generate electricity, create heat sources, and do it in a way that doesn't emit greenhouse gases, that is highly efficient, and that produces renewable energy.
I'd like to reclaim my time. In Colorado State University, what they're saying is if we don't go in and do these selective cuts, within the next 3 to 5 years, Colorado's mature lodgepole pine trees will be gone. So being able to go in and do these selective cuts, manage the forest in a very smart and efficient manner is good conservation, and that's what we're trying to do, and then to use them for woody biomass. I think it's a good amendment. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Any other member wish to be recognized? Mr. Stupak.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Walden and I have talked a lot about this. We went back and forth the other day on this, and I come from the Midwest, and we treat our forest a little differently than they do in the West Coast. We have the emerald ash borer, which is devastating all of our ash trees in the Midwest. But because we're not an old growth or a mature forest where that is being found, we can use it underneath some of this language that we have here. In the timber sale cuts, we can still, I still have the opinion we can use it, Greg. I know you're shaking your head no. On your western end there, I think the forest will treat it different. Even underneath the proposal we have in the legislation, at least in our forests in the Midwest, more than 92, 93% is available for the woody biomass of the federal lands. Now there is a small portion that is off underneath this current definition. And as I said the other day, we had negotiated this woody biomass about 8 drafts and went back and forth. And while I know your amendment is well intended, I would ask that we defeat it and hope we could defeat this amendment and just move on with it. This is an issue that I think we have to put some more time in, depending on where you are, the Midwest, the West. The forests are truly treated differently. In not only our timber sales, our forest management plans and all, and I think it's something we should look at further. But for right now, I guess I'd ask for a no vote.
Would the gentleman just yield for just a second? Because we just got these data points you might be interested in. If you'd yield. Thanks, sir.
Yes.
There's at least 2 million acres of mature stands in the National Forest Service system in Michigan. Half of that will most likely, on average, not be available under the bill because of the roadless term, and half of that won't be available because of the mature stand term. That's mature stands, 2 million. In Minnesota, it's 1.1 million. You know, you can go all over the country, and you know, if you're down in Georgia, it's 640,000 acres, and Idaho's 10 million acres, and you have mature stands, and the bugs you talk about get into the mature trees.
But very, reclaiming my time. That's very. I have 3 national forests. That 2 million acres is very small compared to my whole comparison of my forest. Like I said, it's about at most 8%.
If I could just follow up, the total number in the National Forest Service system, you're right, most of the federal lands is on the west side of Mississippi. There's about 150 million acres of federal Forest Service lands that's treed, that's forested, actually forested, not grasslands. Half of that is off limits because of this bill right off the top, because it's mature stand. Half of it right off the top. And the scientists say there's no scientific basis for that. You're going to go do the treatment. This is about what you do with what comes out.
I agree.
You're going to just burn it and slash as opposed to efficiently burning it without greenhouse gas emissions to any amount. But I understand, and I appreciate your willingness to.
I'd be willing to continue work on this thing, Greg.
Yeah, I realize
there's some more issues there we got to resolve.
I think you can accept it here.
The gentleman accept it, and we'll work on the details.
Now, when we put together this, like I said, 8 drafts, there's been a coalition of us worked on it, and I think you
That's
start,
the purpose of the committee process, to improve the work
when you
product.
find something
That's what
wrong.
it does, Bart.
Correct. And I'm not comfortable yet. I think there really is differences on the way we treat it from the Midwest to the West. So let's look at those a little bit more. I'm not prepared to say you have the right answer yet on it.
Gentlemen, you.
Yes.
The committee process and the markup is to resolve issues, but we've considered this issue over and over and over again in the last 3 days. And I think you'd be a lot more effective if you accepted the willingness of members on both sides of the aisle to just continue to work on this issue, not to bring it up for a vote every day.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I might, I have been in personal discussions with the gentlelady from Colorado for a day or two, the gentleman from Michigan.
True.
We've been in contact with the gentleman from Arkansas, been working with the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Baird. There have been a lot of this amendment is not the same as the one I brought up. This simply strikes the word mature forest.
You know what?
We've been working.
I want to withdraw the comments I just made. You are representing your constituents as you believe best, and you care about this issue, and you've been tenacious about it. And I would like to encourage people to continue working on it, see if we can resolve it.
Well,
But I would urge that we not accept this amendment now, because I don't think we're ready I don't think we've reached that point where we're all feeling comfortable with it.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'd yield to Mr. Gett.
I would like to echo what the gentleman from Oregon is saying in terms of, he really is working hard on this, along with members on both sides of the aisle who are from the Rocky Mountain West and the Northwest. I'm not sure we're quite there on this amendment yet, but I will say that that the points that the gentleman from Oregon raises, that the picture he was showing, that looks like western Colorado with the pine beetle kill. I will also point out, though, the reason why the pine beetles are killing those forests is because the forests are warming, and so the larvae are surviving over the winters. And so we really do have to do something about global climate change. And I will commit, win, lose, or draw with this amendment today, I will commit personally to working with the gentleman as we move forward to the floor, and I'll yield back.
And for that commitment, I will make sure you get a Bear Mountain woody biomass block.
That's all right, but thank you for the offer.
All time has expired. The chair would request that we vote on the Boyer amendment first on net metering.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Given the spirit of commitment to work on this mature forest issue, I will withdraw the amendment and not vote on it. All right?
Thank you very much. So we have one amendment to vote on, and that's the net metering amendment that Mr. Boyer has offered, which has a consensus behind it. All those in favor of the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw my point of order against
The
the
point of order is withdrawn. All those in favor of the amendment will say aye. 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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment's agreed to.